right, thank y'all for tuning back in from the bottom, a very special edition. We got Chris on and Kyle, two of our fellow friends to talk about, the George Floyd situation and the racism and the riots and what's going on, and, get some other men's take on it, and get some feedback from them. So we're going to go and get this thing started. Jerry, go and give them the first question.
First question, fellas. First off, man, how y'all doing tonight, man? How y'all doing?
Good, man. Solid.
Surviving, man.
Good.
Surviving, man. Feeling good to be black, man.
I always feel good to be black.
There we go. That's
Always.
the spirit. My first question is kind of like a two-part question. It may seem long, but bear with me, fellas. First part. What are some ways we as a race / society can come together and unite as one before we even dip off into everything that's happening? What are some ways?
Go ahead, Special K.
I like that.
I think one of the ways is to figure out, like, I don't want to say concise messaging, but we have to come together on what it is we collectively want, what we demand, right? I think there's a number of different subsections of the overall community across the nation that have attempted this in the past. And it could just be my ignorance, but I think as a whole, we need to come together and figure out and unify around a set of demands. Like, what is it? What are the outcomes we want to see? And more importantly than that, we've got a lot of talented folks in our community that not only have the intellect, but they have the funding to help folks think through the what's next. Like okay, we protested. There have been riots. Like, we have the nation's attention, we have the world's attention, right? Mm-hmm. What comes next and how do we navigate those next steps? Those are things that I've been thinking through just on my own. Like, and I'm stumped, man. Like, the last few days, I think, in my opinion, it's really, really been about reflection and figuring out how I can personally get involved and continue the conversation with my kids and my wife, But that's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, okay. I like that. What's your take on it, Chris?
For me, it comes down to planning, plotting, and prioritize. It's if you are a part of my Facebook friends, you'll see I posted a video from Killer Mike, and one of his things that he said when he was on the podium in Atlanta, he said that the way that we do this is we have to come together and we have to plan, we have to plot, and we have to prioritize what we're going to be doing here. And when you prioritize, you understand a couple things about society. One, there's always going to be those people who don't understand and don't want to learn, meaning that they just want to have their opinion and they don't want to learn. Like somebody told my wife the other day that they didn't believe in white privilege, and that because she was black, half black, that she knows and she came from this and she understands that. And I told her that that's just not worth your time. Like, from someone like me and my life experiences, I've lived it. So how can you tell me that you don't believe in something that I've lived? That's just an opinion of yours. And so those people are going to always exist. There's going to be people who always have these opinions about things. There's going to be people that will never want to accept responsibility for some of the things that are going on, or show weakness toward or sympathy toward some of the things that are going on. And there's going to always be those people who are selfish. They're going to exist. There's nothing that we can do about that part. But the part that we can do something about is make ourselves visible. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that are in our inner cities, that are in our hoods, if you will, that haven't even filled out a census before, have never been even recognized as someone who can have a voice to the things that matter. Burning down our own businesses and our houses leave us with nothing. That doesn't change anything in that regard. You have the right to be angry, but taking it out on your own property and your own brothers and sisters' property is not the way that we find a resolution. the way we find a resolution is we come together, we become more politically knowledgeable, and we get ourselves involved. And what you can do, just like he said, is you just take 5 of your friends like we have right now, or you take 10 of your friends, you have conversations about it. You start working on education. You get people interested in learning about different political candidates. It doesn't necessarily just have to be the president. It could be city officials. It could be mayors. It could be any of those people. You learn more about that. You have to get involved in politics. The problem is that they steer us away from politics, so we have no interest in it. But politics drives everything that we deal with in society. And so that's what it comes down to. It's going to be about us willing to prioritize politics. Like he said, like Killer Mike said, fill out your census, be a voice that can be heard. And you got to get out there and do the right thing and vote for the right people, because the right people are in there, but they just don't have a voice sometimes. There's sometimes you say, oh, well, I don't want to vote. And I was actually one of the people that was like that too. I don't want to vote for either one of these people because I don't like them. Then vote for somebody you do like. There are people in there that mean well about what they're trying to do. And nobody's perfect. Everybody's always looking for the perfect person. Nobody's perfect. But vote for somebody that will be able to push the drive of America in our values and our ethics in a direction that is going to put us in a better state. Because right now we're just, Trump directly quoted the Confederacy. He said, if you loot, we will shoot. That is a direct letter by letter quote of the Confederacy. I mean, how more wrong can your president be? How more opposite can he be of some of the things that we're trying to get done here? And so that's the person that oversees our entire country. That lets you know how far away we are from where we need to be. But in order for us to get there, it's going to take each and every one of us to do it. And that's my stance on it.
So I got a question about that, Chris. Have all of y'all voted before?
I have. I voted before, but I did not vote last time. I mean, I'm talking about just the primary presidential election, because I was one of those people that were like, well, either Hillary or Trump are going to win, and I don't like either one of them. But you can't be like that. You really can't. And there's situations like this that open your eyes to show that you need to do more education on things. And sometimes you need to figure out that these are two imperfect main candidates that may win, but you got to find the person that's going to mean well more in those senses. And so I've learned a lot about my lack of action, and I plan to change that.
Well, I mean, I never voted. I never even kept up with politics. But like, so if a politician have a black agenda, something that'll help the black people out, like who keep them to their word? Like, do they have to do it if they talk about it before they get voted in? Or can they just say something and then it don't really have to come to fruition, once they get in office?
A lot of people say that we had a black president and he didn't really do much for black people altogether, but it's about more than just our president. And it really it's like a webbing. It goes down further than that. We have to target the officials that are below all of that, because one man can only do so much. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes in presidency that might not allow him to just directly address these issues, which is sad, but it's a product of something that's bigger. And even though they might be the anchor, right now our anchor's under, 600 feet of water right now. This guy is the worst anchor we've ever had, and he's put us back years and years and years. So we know what it can be like to be, at the bottom of the ocean. So it's only going up from here. But at the same time, we have to not just target our president. We have to target all of the layers that are a part of that. I mean, if you look at even like our vice president and some of the officials and some of the police officer or police chiefs, and some of them are standing with us, and some of them were just completely silent. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a time to be that way, especially because the police force is directly involved in what sparked this whole controversy. But I mean, Will Smith said it best. I mean, racism isn't growing, it's just being filmed. That's all that is. And it's just going to continue to be filmed, and it's going to continue to be out there, and it's going to continue to drive this fire that we have. We got to do something about it. We have to do the right thing. And I believe that that's what it is.
Yep.
Now, see, I heard a lot of, when there is a lot of voting, when it comes to like in these town hall meetings, it is word that a lot of those are secret meetings, you know, to whereas nobody knows about it, you know, very seldom people, because if there was word, you think about how many people would actually be there, and it would get some type of publicity, and it would go to whereas the people went. And when it comes to important bills like um as of like now, like small business moving in, you know, just different things when it comes to the people knowing that don't go noticed, like the grants that the people can get in the neighborhoods, especially for black people that Kel was telling me about. I mean, it's even deeper in which you have to get into in order to even know that. And like Cal was telling me, you know, there's some things that people didn't know about. And with that being said, it's hard for people, even when they try to find as many resources as they can or talk to a certain many people. It's just like there isn't enough being said to help the people in order for the people to grow together, in order for us to get that organization. Not saying they're not, but at the same time, there's a lot of it for the important meetings and just gatherings that we must be in to make that change into our community, to be that, you know, to grow from that, you know, like just like the Black Panthers, you know, I mean, how they had it word of mouth, but these things now, things that can take an effect, it's hard to take an effect because, like I said, it's behind closed doors. Only a certain amount of people know, because if you get that one brother or sister that's in that uproar, that's extremely tired in the ghetto of, you know, how they just treating our kids when it comes to education and funding, because I see the difference when it comes to school districts. You know, the further you go north versus, you know, south, and it's sad. So
I lived that.
yeah.
I went from being a Detroit public school kid throughout my entire life to fifth grade, being a straight A student. And then my mom remarried and I moved to the suburbs. And I went from learning long division to algebra 2. Like, that's how far ahead in education that they were. And so I went from being an A student in Detroit to a C student until I could adapt and learn and catch up.
Yeah.
But that's not fair. So the race from start to finish is the same. The difference is for us, they say you're going to run the race in quicksand. So we're doing the same race, but we do not have the same circumstances. And so that needs to be addressed. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, well, you guys have the same things and they don't believe in this and they don't believe in that. It's like, no, it's not true. Like, I lived that. I understand the difference between the education that you receive here, the opportunities that you have here. And I'm an asterisk in that particular scenario. There's a lot of friends that I grew up with in Detroit that did not get out of that whole system that they have there. It's a system that's made for you to fail. That's what it's made for. You're not supposed to make it to the finish line in quicksand, guys. You're supposed to sink. You understand? Like that. That's how that's set up. And so if we're all in the quicksand, the only way that we're going to figure out a way to get out of it is we have to start small and we have to use our voice first. That's why this podcast is so strong, because people get to use their voice, right? And their voice is what they use to inspire. And that's how we get change. And that's just how we can do it in the simplest form. That's really the only thing that, and there's no guarantees, meaning that if you remember when Trump won the election, I believe Hillary had more votes than he did. I think that the electoral vote is what had Trump win, which has nothing to do with the people. So it was close. And so they used the electoral vote to vote Trump in, right? What if it wasn't close? What if those people who don't know or understand that, hey, your voice really matters because they've been told, or they haven't had the visualization to understand that their voice matters, you know, they've just been kind of in the quicksand for so long. They don't know. And it's sad that it's like that, but I mean, the voice is going to be the way to get out of it. The the people who understand and they're willing to spread that knowledge, and either some people are going to grasp onto it, some people are not, they're going to go back to their ways. But the more that you can spread that, even if we get half the people that don't have a voice right now to have a voice, will make a difference. Just half. And then we'll see where to go from there. It's got to start at the simplest level. I think that that's what it's going to come down to, and not necessarily just the white celebrities get involved, but those people that have power and a platform to get those messages out there a little bit more are going to be the ones to spread that message and inspire people. Like, I don't really have a platform like that. I can only inspire people that I know and that trust the things that I tell them. But someone like a LeBron James, who has over multi-million followers, he can inspire a lot of people. Someone like Will Smith, someone like these people who others look up to. You know, these are the people who can really inspire a lot as well. But I mean, I feel like everybody has this job to show that you have a voice, and you can show that by your own action, not necessarily say, hey, you know, you have a voice too. You can say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is my way of trying to show that this needs to change, and you can do exactly the same thing. There's no difference between me and you in that regard. And even from the little side of like us spreading that individually compared to the people who are on bigger platforms, I think that the message will get out there. I think that this is a little bit more of a unique situation based off of the outcry that's come from this particular situation. And this is our chance right here.
I think this was like, I mean, not the perfect time for George to die, but I think a lot of people was already at the breaking point from the virus, you know. So I think like once this happened, it just, a lot of people letting out a lot of frustration, but it's just not here in the U.S. this time. You know, I see that it's all around the U.S. this time. Like they talk about Black Lives Matter, you know, for a black guy, you know, and I think like if people don't understand it now, like I don't think they ever will understand it.
This is not just a United States thing either.
I
Ireland.
know.
This is waved around the world. You'd be surprised, man, if you look at the way this is impact around the world. It's just, you know, people already have outside of America have views of what America is and how America does things and all of that. And so this is just another one of those things where they can kind of stick it to the American man and say, hey, you know, this is not okay. You know, why would somebody want to land it to free, you know, land of equality? You know, that's total BS. You know, the people outside of America now have a voice and can say, hey, I thought you guys were the best country in the world. What is all this that we see here? And they're making sure that they putting that out there like that. And so they're not letting people off the hook either. But I mean, it's really going to be about what happens in our country and the players that we have that are able to be vocal and able to spread the message. It really is. It's just, I mean, if you watch the video, I don't even know if I can watch the whole video again. It was so hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
And then what's his name, Ahmad? You watch his video. That was so hard to watch. Yeah. Just like, because personally, you can always put yourself in that scenario.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I think that's what makes it harder to watch for people like us, where we're like, dang, that could have been me. Like,
yeah.
You know, somebody called the cops on me because I'm writing a check and they think that my check is bad. And I don't even have a chance to tell you guys that, hey, there's nothing wrong with my check. And they find out there's nothing wrong, but the cops are still in my grill about it. And now I got this cop on my neck. And, you know, in my head, I'm like, would I just let him just treat me like that? Or would I take my chances with him shooting me instead of just, you know what I mean? Like, so if George fought back, how different would the situation be? He probably would have got shot and killed, right? And then if he fought back, you know, I think that because he was so victimized, it made the situation that more powerful. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like when you put yourself in that situation, you have a lot of thoughts. Like, would I let this guy just sit on my neck for this long? And eventually, if my life is threatened, say, you know, I'm just going to fight back.
I mean,
he's going to shoot me. He's going to shoot me. You know what I mean? Like, so you just think about those things. I'm not saying that it's something that he could have did. I'm saying that these are the things you think about. If you have somebody there and you really can't breathe, or someone's hurting you, or something, is there a moment to where you think, hey, maybe I should fight back? Maybe that crossed his mind, but maybe he thought that wasn't the right thing to do. You know, maybe he thought, I can survive this, but I can't survive getting shot. But he was wrong. You see what I'm saying? So these are the things that I think about putting myself in that scenario.
I mean, I don't think he would have ever thought of a guy like on his neck. You know, ain't nobody ever thought about that. You know, that was common sense. Like who put their knee in a guy's neck? You know, and then they made it seem like at first I thought it was just one officer till they showed the other view with two more officers on him. You know, so
What?
I mean, once I seen the officer hand in his pocket or wherever his hand was on his hip, I mean, that let you know right there that the guy, George, was no threat. You know, this stuff, yeah.
They would have shot him, Cal, if he would have tried to fight back, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you know good well that if somebody keeps their, I mean, the guy had his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. 9 minutes is a long time. I mean, you're sitting there and just slowly dying. You know what I mean? Like, do you take your chances in getting shot, or do you wait it out and see if you have the chance of survival? Because this guy is not trying to let you live. He should never be putting his knee on your neck in the first place. There's nowhere in police training that teaches you anything of the such, not even close. And I have plenty of police officers in my family that will tell you that is not the case. Actually, I have one, my uncle, but I also have a friend's dad is a police officer, was Detroit PD as well. So they'll tell you. I mean, there's nothing like that. I'm not dealing with any suspect in any way. If you disarm a suspect with a weapon, you still don't do that to them. You don't put their life on the line when you're trying to uphold the law unless your life is threatened. And there was no situation where he was fighting back. There was no situation where he was moving out of that and threatening their lives. And that's what made him so victimized.
So this is where, like, I'm kind of at a loss, because we've seen this before. I mean, no matter how many times, you know, friends, loved ones, other folks who wear blue, you know, who are cops, they can tell the public, they can tell us, this isn't how this should have went down. Mayors could speak up, you know, governors could speak up. It's going to keep on happening, regardless of, I feel, how much inspiration some of our athletes can, you know, can provide with their platforms without a plan. You feel me? And that's where it's like, for me, over the last few days, it's like I'm really reflecting on, do I really know what's going on here in Puyallup? You know, do I know what's going on in Seattle, Tacoma? Like, where am I able to get involved, right? One. Yeah. The second thing is, every community, I think, requires different things. You know what I'm saying? Every community is unique. So we have to figure out, what do these specific communities need? The people in the community need to figure that out, in my opinion. Like, what do we need to happen as an outcome based on what's been happening? I mean, I was going back through earlier today, just looking at riots, the Watts riots, I think in '65. My dad was a part of that. Baltimore in 1968, and protesting Martin Luther King getting shot. Rodney King, you know, almost 30 years.
Was a part of the Detroit riots, and they had the freaking tanks rolling down the street, and that was insane. He tells me stories about that.
And these folks were acquitted. This is the thing. If you look at Rodney King, 4 cops acquitted. Like the same narrative continues to happen, and this narrative goes. I mean, it's got history, right? Deep history, Jim Crow history, further back than that.
Way further.
My thing is, like, inspiration is definitely needed. Solidarity is definitely needed. There's a function, there's an arm of awareness that we have to use and rely on social media for. But after a while, just posting all this stuff on social and posting your thoughts on it, I feel you. Like, we're unified. What are we doing now? You feel me? Like,
that's the killer Mike. That's the plot. That's the plan. That's the prioritize. That part
of these communities. You feel me? And
yeah, so it's gonna be that. How do you inspire people to do that? To plan? if an incident like this doesn't inspire people to want to do something different, what will? Because this is not going to change. My uncle could tell me that shouldn't have never happened, but I said no. What should have never happened is someone like that shouldn't have the ability to be in the police force.
Honestly, the last incident.
You can't have police officers that are able to act on impulse and aggression and expect people to behave and be patient and be compliant. Like that's not, you can't expect that. It makes no sense.
I agree. The same thing can be said for the last incident. Like, honestly, I mean, take it back. How many incidents have we seen, just in the 2010 alone, right? Like, there's so many incidents that should have inspired people to change or to do something. So kind of like y'all were talking earlier about when my when my computer glitched out, folks not knowing what to do. I think that's something that should be solved for in our communities. What are some basic things that you can do at your home or at school or at the library, whatever? Is it getting educated? Is it knowing who XYZ officials are in your neighborhood or in your city, in your community? It's knowing levers, to pull, or people to go to in order to have these conversations, to vent. Like, there's so many things that we can actually solve for, but to your point earlier, Chris, we've got to plot it out. But I think every community is going to need something that's unique, and I don't know. I mean, it's feeling like we're unified. I mean, the world is unified around this. Top down, I think change needs to be a forcing agent coming from the top down, like just in terms of our institutions, like how they prosecute cops, how they engage with their unions. That needs to be looked at, right? But from the ground level up, when it comes to the community, the people actually having a voice that moves things, right? A voice that actually does more than post or say things. Like, the things that people can do, that needs to be defined for each community.
You know what's crazy is this has been going on forever. The only difference is we're just filming it now. We're just getting it filmed. And social media gives you the power to get that message out there. But nothing's really changed. And it's going to continue to go on because I really think that, so for example, it's people's right to have hate in their heart. We can't change that. Like, you can't be like, everybody needs to treat their neighbor great, no matter their race, their color, their gender, or whatever. Some people are going to say, forget that. It's my right to hate them if I want to. Even if it's ignorant, stupid, or whatever their reasoning is, they have the right to do that. So if you want to have equality, it needs to be enforced. It needs to be a part of the law. It needs to. That's the way that you would do that. So that person who maybe has that hate toward you for something ignorant or no reason whatsoever understands that if they cross the line, they have to deal with the law to the full of its extent, and not know, you go, in front of the judge and get acquitted. That's not the law. If you want equality, you have to be able to set the terms of the country so that we're driving toward that. There's always going to be, if we walk a line, there's always going to be people that walk on the other side of the line. Meaning that's why we have crime, right? There's always going to be those people that don't abide by it. There's always going to be the people like this. But having that line there matters.
Oh, 100%.
It gives somebody a choice to which side they want to walk on. And we have those laws out there that people follow. People do. Most people follow. I'm not going to go out and just kill nobody. You know what I mean? Like, that, we need that line. We need that line for stuff like this, for things like this specifically. And that is where we need to get to. How we get there is gonna really start with steps. And I don't know if the steps will come in time for another incident like this to not occur, but we got to move in that direction. And I hope that we can get there. I really do.
Agreed.
Now saying that, I do have a question from that. How far would you say we would have to go back to correct this present chaos? Because if you think about it, when you go back to slavery, it's kind of what's like now, how things are being filmed and everybody can see it. What did they do on the plantation when one of the slaves acted up? They threw him in a circle and had everybody on the plantation see him get beaten or even killed, so they can, instruct that fear into him. So once you have that, I mean, you just have all that fear going from parents to the kids, and now that's generation after generation. Same goes with the hate. Now, do you think that we need to stem down to the actual hate that has caused for us to be going through this for all these years, like white and black? Why did you guys come over to get our ancestors? Why is it that you really dislike us and hate us to the point where an officer can do their job and abuse and hurt our children because they're doing their job? But us as parents can't even go to the school and correct our children for being disrespectful to the teacher. If need so, we go to jail. So it's like, that's double standards. He can kill my child and get a merit badge or just get a slap on the wrist, and I'm doing this out of love. So it's like, how far does this need to go in and change? Like, because there's people who think their privilege or that their white privilege or just privilege period is so inferior that, well, hey, I just think this. Like, there was a guy from up here, he posted something with someone on his neck. And with that being said, it's like, how could you, when someone just died, how could you make it a meme or funny joke about, yes, I can breathe, and this man died? It's like, how can you stem down to, you have that much hate and just that much carelessness that, whatever.
Honestly,
You know
man,
what? Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you can't legislate. I mean, you can't, to a certain extent, you can legislate against hate, but you can't legislate hate out someone's heart. You feel me?
And that's true.
Like, that's,
and
I think a lot of that, part of what I honestly feel is like, it's gonna be another generation or two before we continue to get better. I'm not in the camp I'm in the camp that definitely thinks where we currently are at in terms of race relations, in terms of prejudice and systemic racism, like all of that, we are not in a good enough place. We've made progress from where my mom and my dad were, like in the 50s and 60s,
Exactly.
like specifically in the 50s, having to go to different bathrooms, different water fountains, hearing about all that crap. That weighs on you. You feel me? So we're definitely in a more progressed state, but this is not good enough, right? So that's the first thing. The other thing is, like, along the lines of not being able to legislate hate out of folks' hearts. Chris, I think you said it earlier, like, you can't, people are gonna hate. People have the freedom to hate as long as they don't cross that line, of a personal injury, et cetera, and property, et cetera. Like, they have the right to hate. But I think moving more towards adjusting how the rules and the system is set up, right? And you have to do that carefully. But putting your focus there is going to be so much more powerful than like berating some of these people. Because the thing is, a lot of the folks that have a lot of the deep-rooted hate in their hearts, like the older folks, they're going to die off, man. Like, they raise kids, they raise their children, right? And that's something that continues to go on. I acknowledge that, but in my opinion, I think it has to start or continue with the policies that you set in place. And one, getting your elected officials to actually recognize it. I think there's some White House correspondent or representative today that went online or went on the news and saying that there was no such thing as systemic racism. Like, it doesn't exist or something like that. So,
for real?
Yeah, it's wild. But anyway, I'm ranting.
You know how people can say that? People can say that because people get so in. And sometimes think about it like this, because we all do this. When we're driving in our car, we're so in our own little world that we don't understand we're doing the most dangerous thing that we can in our life on a daily basis.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? People get so caught up in their own little world that they're not willing to see those things. They don't want to see those things. They haven't had those experiences. So they just sit there with an opinion. I used to tell my uncle, I said, I could have never lived in the 50s and 60s. I said, I'd been dead. And he said, you know what? nephew, you probably would have, because he knows my personality, he knows the type of person I am, is that I was a knucklehead. If I felt different than what you said, then I was gonna make that known. And that's just the type of person that I am. But here's what I can tell you about that whole hate thing is that when I was born, when all of us were born, there was no hate in our heart. Just like all the people that got all that hate right now, when they were born, there was no hate in their heart. It's a learned thing.
Yep.
And for the fact that you see kids and they're just all about love all the time, they don't hate anything. They're excited for boxes. You open a toy for them, they want to play with the box. They got this they lose that at some point. They lose that. And I feel like they shouldn't, but they do. Just like I feel like some people shouldn't learn that hate, but they do. They're taught that hate. And that's where that comes from. And so, as Kyle said, as their teachers get older, they try to pass it on. And I think that what's happening that's making it, and yes, it will be a long time before this happens, but there's been a lot of blending in our society. And what I mean by there's a lot of mixed kids in our society. A lot more every year. You just look at the number. It's just getting, and it's not just black and white. I mean, it's all over the place. It's just all sorts of blending, and they're treating those as minorities. And so the minority population is growing. And the white men with hate in their heart are saying, we're threatened by the fact that minorities think that they're going to take over and they're inferior to us. And so it's not illegal to have the Ku Klux Klan. It's just frowned upon. It's protected by the government. And if you want to get the majority of hate out, you got to get rid of those people. They got to be illegal. It has to be completely illegal. You should not be having any white supremacist groups, because they don't just threaten black people. They threaten everybody. That's the only type of supremacist group that has like a hate in their heart and will plot. They store guns. They do whatever they think that they're just going to go and do something crazy. They'll put somebody up to doing something crazy who is just this kid looking to belong somewhere. This little white kid that never had really hate in his heart, but he's looking to belong somewhere. He never really got that inclusion before. And so they pick up this kid named Dylan, and they show him the ropes, and they're his family, and they give him stuff, and they take care of him, and he will do anything for them because they're now his family, right? Why don't you go into that black church over there, make friends with them, and then shoot them all and kill them? Dylan, no problem. You see, this is how that works. They prey on those weak-minded people, those people that want inclusion. That's how cults work, and that's what that is. That's what the Ku Klux Klan is. It's a freaking cult of people who just hate themselves. And so they project that hate onto other things.
Yep.
And it's not even really hate of us, it's fear of us. That's what it is. It's not that fear drives the hate that they have, and they can turn that hate over into having, I have hate in my heart, which, you have some hate for your own life, but you turn it over to the fear that you have of us to start hating us. And if we want to start somewhere, make that completely illegal. I mean, if they find any type of supremacist groups in the country, have zero tolerance for it. Maybe that can streamline some things. But Kyle said it right. It's a generational thing. It's just going to have to wean out slowly, unfortunately. And there's no way that we're going to be able to prevent something like this from happening tomorrow. No way.
Yeah.
I do not want to see the destruction, all because of embarrassment or just because of pride of releasing that, that hate, or telling a person of another minority, look, I'm sorry. I mean, because there are some kids, I mean, like you were saying, relationships, interracial relationships have changed the minds of some older folks to where they're like, I can't believe I did it. I have a grandbaby that's mixed. I don't even know how, I brought my turns to doing that. And some of those folks are lightening up and like, man, I've been missing a whole lot all this time, baby. I mean, we have to get, I just see it just being, a lot of destruction, and a lot of chaos, of which it has, brought upon. Like, look what happened in Seattle. Look what happened in Minneapolis. I mean, it's crazy, man. For the folks who are riding, for Floyd, I mean, some of those businesses are going and destroyed. It's like, why destroy the people that are ones, are helping you in your community? Those are the ones you're supposed to support. So you ain't got to destroy Target. Just don't go give them your business. Support the ones that are like local. You heard me? I mean, that's what you do.
I want to touch on that, but one thing that I heard that's like one of my favorite contradictions or rebuttals that I hear from people that don't want to support is, oh, now black people want to pay attention when somebody outside of their race is killing them, but they're killing themselves in the hood all the time and all this stuff. And those are the type of people that have never had that experience. They've never been in the hood before. They don't understand the different type of lifestyle that you're living in. It's a system that's made for you to fail. They put the liquor stores, they put the gun stores, they drive the pricing of the houses down, and then they have you struggle to pay for those homes, and then they raise the prices up for gentrification to get you out of there so that you're homeless. They put you in a position of where there's no money to be made in the neighborhoods. And so a lot of them have to turn to crime to make their money, to live their life. If any other person was put in that particular situation, they would do the same thing. They might not thrive as good because black people, we know how to hustle, but you put white people in there, I don't know if they'll be able to do it like that. I mean, I know some hustling white people, but I don't know if they'll be able to squabble like that. But I'll tell you this, that's what they're going to have to do if they were put in the same situation. And then, so that's just another one of those things that I just call, that's just an opinion for somebody who's very simple-minded and don't understand anything. Like when you're put in there and these things are put in your neighborhood, it's just like the car now, the car metaphor I put up. You're in this bubble, this world where you're being brainwashed that your brother is your enemy and you're making money for your family and it's just you against everybody else. And then you're going out and you're killing, and it's not right. It's not right. And we shouldn't be killing each other either. But that isn't what the issue is at the moment. We need to, as a community, address that issue as well. But it's like they try to like reflect to something different. And that I hear that all the time. And I'm just like, that's so simple-minded. Like I could just word destruct you right now on examples of what you don't even know what you're talking about. But I just had to bring it up because of one of the things that you had said. But I feel some kind of way about the looting and the rioting and all of that stuff, because there's a bunch of people who are out there for the right reasons, and those are the people that we need to focus on. There's people out there for the wrong reasons, and then there's people out there to sabotage and create a narrative that there can be no good people out there. And as you see, I mean, as more information comes out about cops in disguises, setting buildings on fire, breaking stuff, and then they get outed. And this has always existed, except social media has offered people a way to put that up there. It's filmed now. You can be caught doing those things.
Yes.
And they're just trying to incite that negativity, in that all of a sudden now all the protesters are bad people. And it's not like that. And so I feel some kind of way about that either. Do I believe that we should be looting and burning and destroying our own businesses? No. I personally believe the exact opposite. I believe that if you can support an African-American business over any other business, you should definitely do that. And you shouldn't be shunned for that, because guess what? The Chinese do it, the Arabs do it, everybody does it, the white people do it. So I don't want to hear nothing about that. If we're going to definitely want to economically rise, then we're going to have to support each other's businesses as well, just like they do. But you want to know what happens is, so you say, well, I'm going to, support this company because, it's black owned. They're like, why do you want to support them? Because they're black. Well, they're not very good. You ain't asking that question about everybody else supporting their own community. Because our community was put together and brainwashed to be divided. You see, from the beginning, we were supposed to be divided. We're the only community in the United States that have been put here to be divided. Even illegal immigrants coming over from Mexico are still one. They're one. But African Americans are here to be divided, because we can't come together, because we're too strong if we do. especially those who really know about our history, where we come from, the things that have happened in our past, the things that give us power, you know. And then, I mean, just look at like our athletic ability, our ability to learn, the things that we do that don't get seen, and things that we do that do get seen. You know what I mean? Like, we shine, and we shine in the sun. We don't burn in the sun.
Yep.
You understand me? You feel me?
Yeah,
These are
man.
things that there's a reason for that division. And I believe that those things need to be visible. They do.
Yeah. I think right now they're painting the division, um, similar to what you mentioned earlier. They're painting the division. They're focusing on the rioting and trying to use that as a divisive wedge to break or dilute the potency of what's going on right now around the nation. And what's crazy is, like, as I was going back and looking through a bunch of these other riots, the biggest question in my head was legit, like, how did you not expect, this is for government officials, it's for everyone posted on social about the riots, like, after what we've seen, we have a history in this nation of race-related riots. Every single time just about that's happened, whether you call it peaceful or whatever, stuff gets looted, stuff gets burned down. I'm not saying that's something that should be accepted nor condoned, but my point is, like, in the riots for Rodney King, you know, around that time, over 1,000 buildings burn. Like, take it back into the 60s, similar numbers. The thing is, there's a pattern of these things, and people, especially officials, are acting like this is a brand new occurrence. No, if you know that this is an outcome because of, it could be Antifa, it could be white supremacists, it could be some of the protesters that get riled up and start rioting, whatever. But if you know this is an outcome, don't you think you ought to listen to what the main issue is so you can avoid some of this, even if you don't care, right, about Black lives? Like, if you want to avoid some of the looting and the destruction of businesses, if that's your thing, listen, like, open your ears and listen, figure out how you can actually be a part of the solution. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the biggest thing that irritates me. Well, not the biggest thing. One, death. That I'm trying not to cuss, but that's hugely compelling enough for you to be angry, right? But folks who feign confusion around the rioting, confusion around the destruction of buildings, when, as we've all heard in the past few days, one, this nation was partially founded by that destruction, rioting, war, all that stuff. Why are you so surprised that this is happening now? Better yet, if that's not even the question that should be highlighted, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to prevent the next night?
They're not surprised. They're just acting surprised. You got to remember something.
Ridiculous.
We might think that they don't want this to happen, but they do. You want to know why? Because they can control the narrative. The people that can control the narrative can control the outcome, and that's always going to be that. And the media controls the narrative. The government controls the narrative, and as long as they do that, they take the power out of the situation. It's just that simple. The media is displaying all the negativity, they're just basically smoke and mirrors all the time. They control the narrative, and as long as they do that, it takes the power out of the entire situation. You know,
so in this situation, though, I think the onus is on us then. You know what I'm saying? As a community, as a shared community, to push back on that narrative with the plotting we were talking about, the plotting, planning, all of that stuff. Like, if we actually want to make some changes, small steps, we need to push back on that, because that is, you're absolutely right. Like, those who control the questioning the narratives, they control how, like, the perspective or the lens through which people are viewing everything. You already see it all across social. It's just one of those things that stood out to me as, like, it's so interesting that everyone's acting surprised. Like, this there's a history with this. Don't be surprised. Do something about it.
I read something that I thought was really powerful, and it made a lot of sense. It said, hey, some of these young black guys that you see, or some of these young guys out here looting and busting up businesses, that's their voice. That's all they know. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. I mean, that's what they know. All they know is destruction. All they know, they're angry. How do they take their anger out? You know, usually they shooting stuff or doing this or doing that. They just know destruction. They don't know anything about a voice. They've never been exposed to that. And hopefully when they are, they'll make a different decision. But at this moment, they're busting stuff up because that's what they know. They're angry. You know what I mean? And I'm not justifying it because I think that's right, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, I'm like, you know what? I never thought about it like that. It's like, that's what they know. They're just doing what they know. When they're mad, they're showing you that they're upset. Yep. And it's really just that simple.
Oh, man. I got to say, thank y'all, too, for the wisdom y'all brought. I really appreciate that. On the first from the bottom round table discussion right here, y'all really dropped the gems. Yeah, we had to try to keep it under an hour this time. So we can, it's just so we, so we can put it up on social media this time, so it's not too long. But I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time that we're gonna do this.
This is good to see all you guys. I haven't seen you guys in forever.
Oh man, who you telling?
Even if we were free right now, well, quote unquote free, I wouldn't even be able to hoop anyway because my back is messed up.
Well, I got one question, Chris. How you got a haircut?
I cut it.
Oh, okay. I was like, Chris.
So here, let me tell you something else though. Someone's like, well, why don't you give me a chance to cut it? And I'm like, I don't know about all that. I was like, I at least know how to do a basic cutting, you know what I mean? So what I did was I cut it and then I showed her how to like taper and line up on my sides, and she did my back. And she did great. She got like that artistic hand, so I was very impressed. So now I know I can get my hair in the nice little spot, you know what I mean? So I'm excited now. It's like I believe her now. She earned my trust, That's a big thing.
Thank y'all brothers for coming on this show.
Fellas.
Thanks
for having us.
Y'all are return guests from last year, so by us doing this just showed me and Jared that it's possible that we can have people on the show to have discussions like this, and share the platform with everybody, so they can get their voice out and stuff. But before we go, fellas, do anybody have a motivational quote about what's going on right now?
Motivational quote about what's going on right now. I just hope that, and this is my work quote, I just hope that everybody can just be better than they were yesterday. If you can continue to do that, I think we'll move in the right. Just keep it real basic. If you can continue to do that, then we'll make some progress. I believe in us.
Oh man,
there you go.
I would say, don't.
Oh, you got some, Cal?
Oh yeah. This is something that hits close to home. It's just don't let love go out of your heart, man. Like honestly, like be angry. Like definitely voice your concerns, voice your stance, but don't grow too callous, man. Don't let love go out of your heart. We got young folks looking up to us. We got kids looking up to us, right? So make sure that we want to pass down the right things. You feel me?
Dang, that was good.
There you go. Fellas, once again, we appreciate y'all for coming through, man. And y'all, you heard me spreading the love, the wisdom, you heard me. So y'all know how the outro go. You heard me? Cal and J every day. Let's get this pop here. Hold on, y'all gotta say it.
Okay. Cal and J every day.
Appreciate y'all,
I gotta practice,
fellas.
man. I gotta practice.
Y'all be safe out there.
All right, now, fellas, y'all be easy.